Howdy partners, this is Kieran with Massive Effect, massiveeffectmarketing.com. We take websites from this and make them like this. Today we're taking a look at an atrocious website built using Wix. Let me show you Control U to open up the source. And here we go. Wix.com, website builder. Bam. So let's just take it in. Let's just take this in. Obviously the cool thing is they've got, video, which is fun and great, but that's there's a lot wrong with this. So let's just start right in. First things first, there's no contrast between the text and the background, so it's hard to read. Second point is it is a script font for the navigation, which is very hard to read. It's all about usability. Your website needs to be usable. You don't see any script font here, right? That's because it's hard to read. So never make your navigation in a script font, and you should, very sparingly use serif fonts. This is a serif font right here. I'm highlighting it, and it's a serif is these little, I can't quite show you, but these little pieces at the end, these little there and there, little Phillips, little decorations, as opposed to sans serif, which is just plain like this. So you don't want to use a whole lot of this type of font. Additionally, there's no contrast with the color. And we have two navigations, which is very confusing, right? We have this one here, then this one. I don't know what's going on. Hideous color with the background here. There's a lot of hideousness going on. I do like that they have their address and phone number, but this should be put up here where it's out of the way. Another thing wrong is there's no value proposition, so they're not really telling me what I'm going to get from the experience, right? We help tourists get cheap rentals and have fun on their vacations, whatever it is, right? The old formula. We do this and you get that, right? Problem, solution, desired result. So they need to have that happening. So we keep on. But you wouldn't know that unless you were a web designer, right? So this is obviously a small business owner. He doesn't know what he's doing, so he's just like, let's get a cool video and throw this down. And then this is the end result. So we scroll down, and then for whatever reason, he felt like throwing an image in there, just tossing in a photo for good measure, because of course you've got to balance text and photos. He read that somewhere online, which is true, but the execution is totally wrong. You don't just throw a photo like that in the middle. It just feels out of place, and it feels like it was done by a non-pro, and you don't want to look like a non-pro. So then we have the copy and some images, and again, this is very hard to read. It's in the wrong color, it's in the serif font, and then the text size is great, but it's not displayed so that it can be easily consumed. Additionally, there's no subheading, so this is very hard to confront, let alone read. If I'm sold on reading this, it's just, you have to first be sold on reading 4 paragraphs. Most people don't want to do that. And also it's hard to read. So it's just it's a double whammy. You've got to make your content bite-sized, all right? You don't overwhelm people with big blocks of text. Throwing some images in for good measure. This is good, so that they're showing their product and where it is in the city, so that's fine that they're throwing in some images. But I'm not a fan of that kind of a layout. I like let me show you over at Life with Paint. It's called the alternating content layout. So you'll do a photo on the side and then some text. Photo on this side and then some text. So instead of just dumping the 2 photos at the bottom and then dumping the text on top, you do a little grid like that, like this guy. It's a lot easier to consume. Maintains interest, all right? Keeping interest going. You lose interest when you hit this. It's like, oh God. We keep going and we have more of the same, right? 2 photos, a whole bunch of text. Again, they should be doing alternating content like this. It's a lot easier to consume. Maintains interest. But you can't do it forever, by the way. This has 1, 2, 3. That's kind of a good limit. If you keep repeating this 1, 2, 1, 2 back and forth too many times, then it's going to be you're going to lose interest because it's then predictable. Good web design is always maintaining interest by changing the design a little bit to maintain some difference. If it's all looking the same, the people are going to tune out. So then we keep going. We've got kind of an Instagram feed or something like that, grid, and then we have a very long scroll, bloody forever, and we have a little footer. This stuff is really great. We've got TripAdvisor review thing, that's neat. We've got TripAdvisor. Call to action is really lonely down there. It needs to be towards the top. It needs to be up here firstly. It needs to be in each of these sections 3 times altogether. I would add that call to action. So, and the other thing with this design is it's just one background, right? This reminds me of back when you could make websites for free in the 90s or in the early 2000s, like GeoCities or something, or I don't know, not quite like MySpace, but you just have this one background image and then you just dump a bunch of things on it. So it's really horrendous and hard to read, right? So this is what happens when you sign up with Wix and you're not a web designer. If you're a web designer and you use Wix, you can actually make a pretty decent looking website because you know all of the tools of the trade. You know how to make design work, you know how to display data. But if you're not a web designer and you sign up with Wix, who knows what you're going to end up with? You could end up with something like this, which is just an abortion. So if you've got a small business and you need to make a website for it, you should definitely not do it yourself. There's some things that you should do it yourself. There's some things you need to hire a professional for. For whatever reason, websites have become a thing to do it yourself. I don't know why, because the end result is just always a mess. Or you're going to spend hundreds of hours actually learning how to be a web designer just so you can save a couple grand and make your own website. It's fine to have a hobby, but you know, whatever. Your website is a reflection of your company, and it needs to paint you in a positive light. It should never paint you in a negative light. It needs to work for you. Not only does it need to look good, right? This website looks horrible, but it also needs to look good, and then it needs to sell as well. So you'll also have to keep that in mind. It can't just be a pretty website. It needs to be a pretty website that has marketing intelligence built into it with the sections, right? And I'll tell you what I mean by that. When we go over here with Laugh with Paint, everything is very intentional. Every section has a specific intention. This section's intention is to make sure the person realizes that they're on the right website. This is what we do, and this is what they're going to get. It's orienting. This is to orient them, all right? This section is to build trust immediately so they know that we're a big deal, that we're legit, all right? That's the purpose of this section. It's towards the top because people don't always go all the way down to the bottom, so you want to hit them with the heavy artillery. This section is also to build legitimacy and to show that you are the real deal. Again, you know, building trust, building repute. This section is talking about the problem. This is about the solution. This is about an objection that's common. This needs a photo. These are benefits. Got to hit them with benefits, right? Testimonials, building trust. So there's many different sections of website needs. You wouldn't know that unless you were a marketer. A web designer doesn't necessarily know that. If you're a web designer, typically you're going to make, we're going to make the, there's the about section, about us, here's our services, and here's the contact form. You're not necessarily going to go deep into these buyer psychology sections, right? With objections, vital statistics, trust building, value propositions. You're not going to know that unless you're a real killer web designer. So not only does this website need to look a lot better, it needs all the proper marketing sections built into it in order to actually turn the visitors into sales. So that is the deal, Banana Peel. If you want your website properly done, you know where to go, massiveeffectmarketing.com. We've been at it forever. I've built hundreds of websites myself. And just come on down. We'll do a little video for you. They're free for now, but eventually I'm going to start charging $9.97 for my video audits. So if you're listening to this, get in while the getting is good. We do a really good video audit. We'll tell you what's wrong with your website and how you can make it more effective so you can get those sales. Also, something super fun. We're partnered with a nonprofit rescue team. So if you buy a marketing package from us, we train a first responder. Isn't that wicked? So we can turn victims into rescuers. So let's save some lives together. So that's what you get if you work with us. Anywho, if you've got a website, go ahead, put it in the comments. I'd love to take a look. We'll do a video. We'll show you what's good, what's bad, so you know what to keep and you know what to remove. It's very hard when you don't know what you're doing. It's kind of like you're in a swamp, blindly making your way through a swamp. What do I need to do with my website? I don't even know what's good or bad. I can tell you that. We'll do a video, no worries. So until then, thank you very much and take care.